Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to learn chapter 3, The Bangle Sellers by Sarojini Naidu. In this class, we will learn about the poem, the main points of this poem, and the summary of the poem in detail. I will give you a stanza-wise explanation and about the main themes of this poem. The title of the poem is The Bangle Sellers, and we expect to read about the life of bangle sellers. However, the poem talks about their life in the first two lines, but later we will say a detailed discussion about three phases of woman's life. We are told that a group of bangle sellers is on their way to a temple fair to sell their bangles. In the first stanza, we will see these bangle sellers are very happy, but they cannot be as happy as they have been described in a life of poverty and deprivation. They can, of course, appear to be happy, but deep in their heart, the poverty and other life situations is making them unhappy. Except these two lines, we are told nothing of the bangle sellers. The narrator of the bangle sellers, most probably the narrator is a woman, and she only talks about the bangles of various colors and which colors are cherished by women in different stages of their growth. Thus, the poem is about bangles, each color of which represent each stage a woman crosses as a maiden, as a bride, and as a mother. Thus, the title of the poem is inapt. It could have been Bangles or any other suitable title. That is the critical appreciation about the title of this poem. Now, let's see what is the main idea of this poem. The main idea of the poem is the feminine beauty of Indian women and their cultural rituals they are closely linked to. This poem is an attempt to represent the stages of a woman's life and the traditions she follows in a typical Indian society at Sarojini Naidu's time. This poem is also about how she is emotionally attached to the objects like bangles, and how these delicate bangles show the transition from a young girl to a woman. The bangles has been an undeniable presence on the wrists of every Indian woman. The poet assigns different colors to suit to different occasions and to different ages. They are not mere ornaments, they are part of their identity. Bangles reflect happiness. So these all are the main ideas of this poem. Now we will see the themes of this poem. There are two main themes for this poem. One is womanhood and the second one is patriarchy. According to the poet, the life of an average Indian woman passes through three main stages: as a maiden, as a bride, and as a mother. Each of these stages is described by the color of bangles. Thus, the main theme of the poem is that the bangles are a part and parcel of a woman's life in India. Each color or type of the bangle represents each stage in her life. Silver and blue or pink represent the stages of maidenhood. Yellow and fairy red are representatives of the girl's wedding. Gold and grey colors represent motherhood and matriarchy. This is the explanation of the first theme of this poem, womanhood. Now let's see the second theme of the poem, patriarchy. The poet has not directly referred to the role and dominance of males in a woman's life, but there are enough hints of patriarchal setup in the poem. A man, as father, husband, and son, plays an important role in every stage of her life. The last four lines have been criticized as an approval of patriarchal ideology by a woman poet. By using fair sons in the last stanza, the poet has only upheld the gender discrimination in Indian families. The last line too shows woman's insubordination by her husband. This is the second theme of the poem. The Bangle Sellers is one of Sarojini Naidu's well-known poems. It is included in her collection of poems called The Bird of Time. This poem focuses our attention on the social, religious, and symbolic values of bangles in Indian culture. No Indian widow is supposed to wear bangles. The wearing of bangles is suggestive of happiness, peace, and prosperity. The newlyweds wear bangles of different hues from those worn by unmarried girls. The first stanza of the poem describes the brief and familiar setting of the poem. A group of bangle sellers is on the way to the temple fair to sell their bangles. The bangle sellers are poor, but they do not talk of their poverty. One of the bangle sellers tells us of each stage in an Indian woman's life in terms of the longing for bangles for a particular color. Each stanza, in fact, deals with each of three stages in an Indian woman's life: as a virgin girl, as an expected bride, and as a matured mother. The main points of this poem are: a group of bangle sellers is going to a temple fair to sell their bangles. One of the bangle sellers describes the bangles of different hues. Some of these bangles are meant for young unmarried girls, some for the brides, and others for mature housewives. These bangles are expressive of the happiness of the woman in three main phases of her life: as an unmarried girl, as a bride, and as a wife. Silvery, blue, and pink colored bangles are suitable for unmarried girls. For the bride to be, there are bangles that look yellow like cornfield or are like red roses. Bangles meant for middle-aged housewives are purple and gold-flecked grey. These all are the main points of our poem. We will see the summary and stanza-wise explanation of the poem in the next class. Thank you.